Hello and welcome. A nightmare conflict involving systematic rape and other sexual violence is dominating life for many civilians in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The intensity of those crimes are rated as the worst in the world, and the situation is compounded by the fact that since August, 250,000 people have fled their homes to escape the fighting between rebel groups and government forces. Congo's 1998 civil war is sometimes called the African World War because it dragged in the armies of 7 regional nations and inflicted some of the heaviest casualties seen in any conflict on the continent. Peace accords signed 5 years ago appear to have done nothing to stop the fighting, even in the presence of a 17,000-strong United Nations peacekeeping force, the largest in the world. Well, the worst hit by the violence are women and girls, some of whom have been gang raped by up to 15 soldiers at a time, in spite of being as young as 9. Many are left with debilitating injuries. And most worrisome of all is the normalization of rape, where it's becoming a part of the expected ritual of the conflict. And today we ask, is there any end in sight to the plight of the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo? And what is the toll on the country's women and next generation? Remember, you can join the conversation with your questions and comments. Log on to livestation.com/AJE, enter the chat room, and then take part. We also welcome your phone calls on the show. Well, my guest today has been deeply involved with the plight of Congo and its women for years. Eve Ensler is the celebrated playwright and activist who authored the internationally popular production, The Vagina Monologues. She is also the founder of V-Day, a global movement to stop violence against women. Ms. Ensler has traveled around the world to counsel women who've lived through unthinkable horrors in war-torn Bosnia, Haiti, and Afghanistan, as well as the Democratic Republic of Congo. She's joining us now from New Orleans in Louisiana. Eve, good to have you back on the show.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
A pleasure. You just got back from Congo, and I thank you, in fact, for coming back a little early, in fact, to be on the show and to do this interview. Now, you're out there in support of your Stop Raping Our Greatest Resource, Power to Women in the DRC. How effective has that campaign been there?
Well, the campaign is actually going very well in spite of the recent violence. And I was there for the month of September, and I'm very encouraged and I'm very enthusiastic to see the kind of grassroots movement that is building in both North and South Kivu in Eastern Congo. As a matter of fact, in September, I was there where there were public testimonies where women for the first time came forward to break the silence and to tell their stories publicly of the atrocities that have occurred to their bodies and souls and beings. And it was really moving to be in Goma and to be in Bukavu and to hear women actually stand in front of governors and officials and community members and really say what is truly going on and be brave and be courageous and really noble in an attempt to make what is real, real.
Well, I was going to ask, what is it about the Congo, what is it about this conflict that's made it so different with respect to women and girls being targeted? Why is it that rape has become so much a part of the crimes that are taking place there? Why is it this conflict in particular?
Well, I don't think, unfortunately, I wish I could say it's only the Congo. We know that wherever there are conflicts and wherever there are wars, women's bodies, particularly now in the last 50 to 100 years, are the battleground. I think in the Congo, because the war has gone on for so many years, 10 years, because 5.4 million people have died, and it's estimated now that between 200,000 and 300,000 women have been raped, because there's been complete impunity, because there's what I consider to be femicide going on, a systematic, a planned destruction of women's bodies, where we are seeing, for example, militias who are set loose on communities knowing that they have AIDS to rape women and give them AIDS. Militias who have STDs who are set loose on communities to give women STDs. Militias who are set loose on communities to rape women in front of their husbands, to destroy the infrastructure of families. I think where there is complete impunity, and where life is not valued, where people are very poor, and where there is no government, and where the world is not present and not watching and not concerned, we know that women become the targets.
Right. And presumably the situation's worse because the government soldiers who are supposed to be protecting the civilians often flee in the face of the rebels and end up raping and pillaging the people they're supposed to protect. Do the people there know who to trust?
Well, I think that's a very good point. An activist friend of mine said that actually rape has become a country sport. And I think now with Akunda, his forces raping, we have the Congolese army raping, we have the FDLR and the Interahamwe raping, we have the Mai Mai raping, and at one point even the peacekeepers, the UN peacekeepers were involved in raping. It has become something that has been not only been made ordinary, but almost expected at this point. And I just have to say, from my perspective, having been living really in the rape mines of the world the last years, whether it's been in Afghanistan or Bosnia or Kosovo or Haiti, I have seen horrible things happening. But I have not seen what is going on in the DRC. And if we as a world do not wake up to the treatment of women, which to me is an indication of really what is going on overall in the DRC, if we as human citizens of the world do not care for the women of Congo and not intervene on their behalf in the ways that they call for, we will see this kind of violence spread not only throughout Africa, but it will be legitimized and it will be licensed throughout the world.
Now, Eve, you mentioned the kind of things that the rebels and the soldiers are doing, transmitting diseases and mutilating people as well, and breaking down family infrastructures. What in particular are you able to do in your work there that helps to try to take the next step for the next generation, that is to try to make sure that there's some kind of future for these people?
Well, I have to say that I'm very pleased with the campaign. We started it a year and a half ago, Stop Raping Our Greatest Resource, Power to the Women and Girls of the DRC. And the campaign, it has many levels to it. We've been able to do 90 forums in the last year where women and men throughout the villages are speaking out on sexual violence. We are opening a place called the City of Joy with local women and local groups that will be a center to turn pain to power, to work with women who have been terribly violated, and to bring them into healing, to educate, support, and really build them to be the next leaders of the DRC. I think one of the big problems that's happening in the Congo right now is that women are not at the table. They're not at the peace talks, they're not present for negotiations, their voices are not involved, and yet they are holding the country literally on their backs. They are suffering great atrocities, they are being decimated. And until women are front and center in the decisions of the Congo and in the future of the Congo will not survive.
Let's get Claude on the line from the United Kingdom. Claude, what would you like to ask?
Yes, my question is, I want to know, the UN have 17,000 peacekeepers on the ground.
Okay, let's ask you about that. Eve, it seems bizarre to a lot of people that the world's largest peacekeeping force deployment from the United Nations is there in the Congo, and yet seems to be powerless or ineffective.
Well, I think that there are huge problems with the peacekeepers. I think 17,000 peacekeepers is an absurdly low amount of people when you're talking about protecting millions of people. I think, second of all, the peacekeeper is a kind of it is not a connected, unified group of soldiers. They're all from many different countries. They are not trained in sexual violence. I think that if you had maybe 50,000 troops, you might be able to begin to protect the people. And there is no real will on the peacekeepers' part to defend or protect the people. As a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, the people in Goma were turning against the MONUC forces because they were allowing Nkunda and his forces to encroach on Goma every day. I think if we're serious about a peacekeeping force, we have to really build a peacekeeping force that can protect people. Otherwise, you are doing it halfway, and it's almost more dangerous.
All right, Eve, lots more to ask you. We're going to give you a chance to fix your earpiece there and take a short break here. We're back with more on with Eve Ensler on the Congo crisis in just a moment. Now, as we pause, let me remind you, you can join the chat room with your questions and comments. You can log on to livestation.com and enter the chat room. You can see the debate taking place there now, just below me there. We'll be right back.